Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast. We cover everything Major League, from spring training to the World Series. We've got your favorite club covered, from New York to Boston to LA. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast.
Back once again to the GSMC Baseball Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Collin Manley, and we got quite a bit of things to get you updated on around the MLB. Obviously got a lot of news when it comes to some hirings, some contracts that have happened coming out of the winter meetings. Nothing too crazy yet, but still stuff that we need to get you updated on. We need to be talking about all those rumors. The rumor mill does not stop. It does not slow down. We even have one trade target who's starting to get a little more chatter around him. We'll see where that one ends up going. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about the 2020 All MLB teams. I have a couple beefs with it, that's for sure. It's not just the players, but the way that the thing is constructed. I just have a little bit of an issue with it personally. Maybe it's just me. We'll find out. We'll discuss and let it be known. But then also, I want to talk about a fun article that was on MLB.com. It had to do with some players that haven't gotten rings so far in their career, and I want to put a little twist on it. Talking about it. But of course, we need to start things off with your news and noise around the league, getting you caught up on all teams in the MLB, and I don't think there's a bigger place to start than with the Philadelphia Phillies, who have finally decided to make a move in their front office, and that being Dave Dombrowski coming to town. Just off of being with the Boston Red Sox, comes over to help the Phillies as the president of baseball operations. He also had the ability to talk to some press a little bit and saying all the right things. We'll put it at that. He said that this is a team that is retooling and not rebuilding for sure. There's too many good players on this club, and that is a very good thing for him to say. But if we've learned anything over the recent weeks, things might be in a little bit of trouble with Philadelphia. Now, he's right in the sense that they have a lot of great players. They've already shelled out contracts for a lot of guys, and they have some young talent as well. I mean, Harper is there, Rice Hoskins is there, Alec Boehm. They got a lot of great players. They got some young pitching, that has the talent, has the potential, along with some contracts that they signed recently. But we know that the Phillies need a lot of help in their bullpen. That's one thing. So that might be, where the retooling comes in. But there's been some chatter around them trying to dump money in Maine, the main topic of that being Zach Wheeler. A contract that they signed, big 5-year deal last offseason to become a pitcher for them, stealing him away from the New York Mets. And they already want to get out from this contract because of financial reasons. So, I don't know if Dombrowski is going to be the perfect fit here, but I get the feel, at least from everything we've been seeing, everything we've been hearing, that he may not have that much money to work with right away, unless if he finds the ability to move on from some of these contracts. But if they actually ultimately trade Wheeler, you got to think they're going to be eating some of the salary. I don't think any team right now in the condition we're in, especially with Wheeler's performance, while he's not an awful pitcher, it's not like he was the top-end ace that they were kind of hoping him to be last year. It just feels like I don't think anyone's going to take him on. I mean, 4-2 and 2.92 is great. 2.92 ERA is great. But that's just a lot of money and a lot of uncertainty. There's a reason that our free agency is going very slow this offseason. Okay, it's not just because teams don't know what they're doing here. They just don't have a lot of money to necessarily throw around. So they're playing it slow. They're trying to work for a lot of these nice contracts if they can. But ultimately, it might be a tough offseason for Dombrowski. Now, priority number one, I imagine, is still to return JT Realmuto to the club. And if he can end up moving a contract or two that he doesn't want, that may become more realistic. But we'll have to see where it goes. I think it's a smart, safe move. There's nothing exciting about this move if you're a Phillies fan necessarily. But, I mean, my memories of him is going to be that we won a World Series in Boston. He made a lot of trades to get players at the deadline, a lot of moves to up that roster, but then after a World Series signed a lot of guys to some bad contracts. This isn't the same situation as he's coming in with a lot of, contracts already there. It's very different. So I sit here at a wait and see kind of moment. We'll see how this unfolds. I just think it was a move where it's one of those retreads, and retreads scare me from time to time because we kind of know what guys do in higher up positions when we've seen it in other places. But maybe the Phillies hit a home run here. It's going to see how the rest of their offseason plays out. Realmuto is the big name. Can they move a contract? Everything else from there, up in the air. Up in the air, I would say so far. We did have some transaction news as of recently, as the Texas Rangers have acquired first baseman Nate Lowe in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. This was on Thursday, and the exchange was for minor league catcher and outfielder Gilberto Hernandez. Also in this trade, Tampa Bay is going to acquire minor leaguer infielder Oslevis Basabe and minor league outfielder Alexander Avales. And 25-year-old Lowe, he had 224 with 4 home runs, 11 RBIs in 21 games last year. So didn't play a great deal. 0 for 3 in the playoffs, but that's his only postseason appearance. First baseman and third baseman, 251 average, 11 homers and 30 RBIs in 2 seasons. This seems more like a depth move, or maybe even the Rangers are going, hey, let's see if we have something here. I don't think it's necessarily a needle mover, but we've been surprised before. The one thing I have to say, and I've said it before, be careful when you trade with the Rays. Because the man going back in Jake Gunther, this is another guy going to the Rangers. He has good numbers in 2019 at rookie level ball. And I think that some people are going to think, oh, that's exciting. But on the flip side, Gilberto Hernandez, who's going to the Rays, batted .344 in 2019 in rookie league ball. His numbers look better. And then he had a little bit of time at Class A. And so that's always an interesting side. Minor league players, they're hard to move. But when you have guys that were kind of at the same level with each other, near similar ages, and you just swap them when one's stats are better than the other, I feel like the Rangers maybe think they got something here, but we'll see for sure. The corner spots, tough this offseason. Tough. And this might be a move where the Rangers say, well, we're trying to stay somewhat competitive, see where things go from there. Sticking with the Texas Rangers, David Dahl, free agent outfielder, is going on a 1-year deal, around $3 million. 26-year-old was non-tendered by the Colorado Rockies earlier this month. He's one of the names we've talked about as, a nice little move, a nice little guy that's heading out to free agency. Potential there. Now, Dahl is recovering from some shoulder surgery in September. That was a setback for him, 2015. He had a spleen removed after running to an outfield wall, rib cage injury in 2017. 2018, missed 2 months with a broken right foot. So health being the main question, but when he's on the field, we've seen some good things. 2019 was probably one of his best seasons, but he also had some injuries. Made the NL All-Star team, injured his ankle, and then didn't play after August 2nd. He appeared in 100 games that year, hitting .302, 16 homers. So it seems like another one of those moves that's a potential move for the Rangers. They're trying to see, can we put something together? Trying to stay a little bit competitive. That's what it feels like. Trying to field the best possible team they can while they have to make a lot of depth moves and decision moves. The Rangers are just going to be an interesting team, I feel like, this year. I like the signing. I like the upside play. I don't think they have any risk in any of it. So why not? Why not give it a chance? Another signing that we saw, the Los Angeles Dodgers have agreed to a minor league contract with pitcher Brandon Morrow. Also signing on Friday, Jimmy Nelson, Brock Stewart, James Pezos, and utility player Carlos Asue. Morrow spent the last 3 seasons with the Cubs, struggling. Injuries, been a big problem for him. 36 years old, was 6-0 with a 2.06 ERA in 45 games for the Dodgers in 2017 after being promoted from AAA. 14 postseason relief appearances, all 7 games in the World Series in that season. And Morrow allowed runs in just 3 of his appearances. So he has some good history with the Dodgers. It's just a minor league contract. But if you have any chance to bust it in potentially with the bullpen, why not? There's a lot of crazy things that can happen with the bullpen. Now, going to some of those other names, Jimmy Nelson signed with the Dodgers before last season but didn't pitch. He had back surgery, 31-year-old. 33-46 with a 4.22 ERA. Most of that all coming with Milwaukee. He's had up and down career. He's had some bright moments where he's looked great, but injuries have just been an issue for him. When he looks healthy, he looked like he was going to be, towards the top end of your staff, but it's just that staying healthy. Brock Stewart, also returned to the Dodgers. He had a brief stint with the Toronto Blue Jays, 29 years old, 6-3, 6.05 ERA, and 46 major league appearances. That includes 11 starts. Pezos made 6 appearances for Colorado last season, and Asue played for San Diego Padres from 2016 to 2018. A lot of these moves just, hey, what do we have here? I think Jimmy Nelson has a good chance to stick around if he's healthy. But the other ones, just what do we have? What's the potential here? This could go a lot of different ways. And you know what? When you are the baseball World Series champions, you can take some risks. You can do some of this stuff. So I think all good signings for them, just hoping they get something out of it. We had some more awards being released recently as Rockies reliever Daniel Bard and Royals catcher Salvador Perez are the winners of the National League and American League Comeback Player of the Year awards. Now, Bard, 35. His story is a lot of fun. Was a big-time Red Sox prospect. Saw his major league career in Boston have lots of problems. Control issues. He retired in 2017. Took a job as a mentor, skills coach for the Diamondbacks. He would shag fly balls. Didn't do anything crazy. Play catch during warm-ups. And a lot of people were just blown away by his throws, and they were wondering, well, why in the heck is this guy not pitching anymore? Got back in the mound in January, was throwing in the mid-90s, and he didn't have that velocity for a long time, so he got into a minor league contract with the Rockies, went to the big leagues, made his debut on July 25th, threw scoreless innings, and it was his first time throwing scoreless innings since 2012. So, really cool. 7 years, 89-day gap between major league appearances. That's awesome. So great. Right-hander went 4-2 with 6 saves, 3.65 ERA. So it was a fun comeback story. And then Salvador Perez, he's been great for a long time. Been a really good catcher. We know that. He missed the 2019 season after having Tommy John surgery, but returned and was great in 2020. Former World Series MVP. He batted .333 with 11 home runs, 32 RBIs. Shortened season, 37 games. But even so, I mean, a lot of people have shortened season. Career high, .633 slugging percentage. Second highest in Royals history. So that was pretty cool. Third catcher to record multi-hit games, including extra base hit, in 6 consecutive games. The guy he swung a great stick last year. I actually was starting to wonder if he was going to be a trade target. He's been a face player with the Royals for quite some time, so it's hard for him to see him leaving, but he could be of great value. Like at the catcher position, I'm surprised we don't talk about him more with all, the noise that's been around Real Muto last year with Grandal, this year with James McCann as well. I've always wondered what's going to be the trade value on Perez if he wants to move, but maybe he doesn't want to leave Kansas City, so that could be it as well. So that's getting you caught up on all news around the league. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about those rumors going on and around baseball. The rumor mill, it never stops here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Well, it truly is funny coming out of a winter meetings that wasn't necessarily too intense. Wasn't a lot going on. Not crazy surprise because when a lot of it's done virtually instead of face-to-face meeting with agents and teams and everything that else that goes on at winter meetings, it's harder to get deals done. Okay, it's not like the passing conversations, the stories that we hear when we have all of these, insiders covering what's going on there. But even with that said, we did have a few things pick up in recent days when it came to a little bit of chatter around some players. And starting things off with a little bit of trade chatter, trade talk, we have probably the most interesting prospect to potentially be on the move. Now, we've talked about Nolan Arenado before. We've talked about the contract. I don't want to, beat a dead horse here, but he has the opportunity to opt out after this season. And that's out of an 8-year, $260 million contract. But if he does not opt out of this year, he's guaranteed a lot of money going forward. And for some teams, that's not necessarily scary in the sense that if you lock in Nolan Arenado at your third base, that's a really good player to have there, not just offensively, but defensively. But taking on money at the moment is challenging, very challenging. So that one season, it's tough because some teams might even want to make the trade and convince him to opt out so that they can sign him to a new deal, maybe something shorter. But why would Arenado want to do that? He's got so much money locked up in the future. And while it wasn't one of his best seasons offensively last year, he's got a great track record. And the other thing that's slowing him down is a little bit of a shoulder injury. But he's still great. He's still a great player. And the Rockies in back-to-back seasons, oh man, they looked tough to start the year. They came out screaming. Charlie Blackmon, Arenado Story, all these guys. They looked like they were going to be very competitive in the National League West. And we knew the Dodgers would be good, but the Rockies were atop for quite a while. And then it just fell off. And that was happening the year before as well. And they're not that far removed from being in the postseason, 2017, 2018. And with all that said, we're at a point where we maybe got to think, are the Rockies going to do some sort of breakdown and maybe do a rebuild in some sorts? I mean, you got the Dodgers ahead of you. You got the Padres ahead of you. That Giants team might be better than you going into this season, and they are looking to make some changes as well. So it might be time for the Rockies to think about changing things up a little bit. I mean, yeah, you're better than the Diamondbacks, but that doesn't mean a lot because the Diamondbacks were just awful last year. But some people think that a trade could be coming for Arenado. And similar in the sense of what happened with Troy Tulowitzki, another former Rocky, to the Blue Jays in 2015. They will make the trade in the hopes to not maybe get back a ton of players, but to actually save money and not have to pay the contract. And there's been rumors of some team, this is coming from The Athletic, that Arenado could be swapped to the Cardinals or actually in division with the Giants. But also another team that was brought up was the Nationals. And I find that one probably the most intriguing, that they talked about a swap with Trey Turner. Not because the value is the same, but they want to do it before Trey Turner gets too expensive. But if I'm the Nationals, I mean, I just watched Anthony Rendon leave last year. I would like to keep Soto, Turner, and if I could add Arenado, like that would be amazing to add to this team. Now they have other gaps to fill, but I would probably be looking in that route if I can pull it, if I can swing for that. But we'll see. The Cardinals make sense. This just feels like it would be a Cardinals trade. Okay, they go in, they trade for these guys that have a little longevity with their team, and they stick around. I mean, they make the smart trade for Paul Goldschmidt. I think back in the day when they made the trade for Matt Holliday. I mean, this just feels like a Cardinals move. That was the first team I thought of, and they need offensive help. So that's somewhere else where Arenado could be going. His trade market could heat up before the start of the season. Now, moving more in the direction of a little free agency, the Boston Red Sox have been talking about having some interest in Corey Kluber along with some other starting pitchers. So this is ultimately the right move for the team. Look to get some of these starters in-house to help you out moving forward. My fandom here, the Red Sox, I don't think next year there's any possibility of contention, maybe even a playoff berth, unless if things absolutely flip. But 2 years from now, that's kind of where I'm looking. The Red Sox, sixth worst starting rotation ERA last year, 5.34 in the majors, just bad. So upgrading rotation, that's priority. Chris Sale, Eduardo Rodriguez, that's a big jump up. Now, the last time we saw Sale, he was not very good, but with all the time recovering, I'm putting my faith in that he's going to be better. Okay, so I like that idea of those guys are addition right there. So the interest in Corey Kluber, Jake Odorizzi, and Rich Hill, those are the names we're hearing. All of those make a great deal of sense. Now, the scary part is all three are also coming off of injury. Okay, don't like that. But their past is pretty great. And Kluber and Hill are rumored to, have living in the Boston area. So there might be some interest there. Kluber is the one that I find the most intriguing just because, he was a Cy Young winner. I mean, he was a great pitcher, and injuries have been the thing that have slowed him down. And last year, he got one inning into the season. Like, what are you going to do about that? And then he took the rest of the time to heal. So 2018 was his last healthy, productive year, 2.89 ERA, over 215 innings. Now he's 35, so you're not going to give him a long deal, very long. It's going to be a prove-it deal. But I still like the risk. I still like the chance. If you get something out of him and then Sale and Rodriguez are back and solid, that's a rotation. That's for things. And Eovaldi wasn't awful. Things will turn there, and then you can look to your bullpen a little bit. So that's the smart moves, I think, for the Red Sox moving forward. Now, Kluber is going to be 35 this year. So you don't know how much more you're getting out of him, but 2 seasons, I think, is doable. Pitchers can go into a deeper age. They really can, as long as they're crafty and smart with their pitching. If they relied on overpowering you, then yeah, it'd be more of a concern, but that's not necessarily the case with Kluber. Now, Odorizzi, 4 starts in 2020. He's kind of the other man in there. He's not the guy who lived in there, but all-star in 2019. Good success with the Minnesota Twins. So I like the idea there. Rich Hill is probably my last on my list. I mean, he's the oldest at 40. And he had a 3.03 ERA with 8 starts for the Twins last year. That's solid. I have no problem with the idea of him coming in if we can get him on cheap deals. I just want smart contracts. Don't give unnecessary contracts. That's the big thing for the Red Sox this year. Ed Spiel on Boston. So moving on, let's stay on that East Coast, though. The Washington Nationals need help in the outfield. Adam Eaton just left, went to the White Sox. So there's options. There's bigger names, George Springer, Michael Brantley, Eddie Rosario. Just saw David Dahl go. But it seems like there is some interest between the Nationals and potentially former Cub Kyle Schwarber. This is coming from the Washington Post. The Nats are clearly interested, certainly interested, we should say, was in the quote, in Schwarber, potential to add some pop to the middle of the lineup, despite having a little bit of a down 2020 season. Washington, we talked about before, they lost Rendon. So anything to add to their offense moving forward to complement Trey Turner, complement Juan Soto. Good moves, smart moves. The Nationals are a team that I'm just intrigued about. When you have 2 guys in Turner and Soto that are that good, put some smart pieces around and you might build something here. So I like the idea of all that. At least me personally, I think that's what I would be doing. So there's a little bit of move. And, Schwarber being a former Cub, we can talk more about the Cubs here as Jed Hoyer recently, being the new man in town, president of baseball operations for the Cubs, had some interviews the day of the winter meetings, and he says that he would like to see Chris Bryant still be with the team in 2021. He doesn't think that it's necessarily 100% certainty. He is quoted to say, I don't think it should be treated as that a trade is going to happen, but that speculation has been hot and heavy, and I don't know if we can necessarily avoid it. And Bryant is expected to earn around $20 million in 2021. And that's not certainty again, for sure, but he is going to fetch a pretty penny, and the Cubs have a lot of decisions to make, even though they moved on from Schwarber. Hoyer also talked about the potential return of John Lester, who the club declined his player option, and that was no surprise. He wasn't going to get that money. He wasn't worth the money that he was on that option. I shouldn't say player option, team option. And if things work out, he could be returning. And he's just been a steady depth pitcher at this point. I would think a lot of teams are going to be intrigued with Lester. Is he the same Cy Young winner that he was back in the day? No. And he is just someone who's going to eat innings, value with his experience, and that's just probably going to be good enough for a lot of teams. And I liked Lester with the Red Sox. Sad to see him when we traded him. It made sense when it happened. But he is someone that can eat a lot of innings for a team that I think that wants to contend next season. So that's what I'd be watching for the name there. Going over to the Philadelphia Phillies, well, Dombrowski was the move for them already. Now there's also some talks of them being in catcher conversations with not JT Realmuto, but also James McCann. Phillies need a catcher. We know that. Realmuto is preferred. But he's a free agent, and he has the potential to cash in on a big contract. And like we've said before, there is some money issues with Philadelphia. Other teams that have been connected to McCann, the Mets and the Angels, are in with strong offers. That's being reported by John Heyman. So I don't know. Man, I feel like it would be a loss for the Phillies if they move on from Realmuto to McCann, because it just seems like with the way things have been progressing that the Mets are almost out on Realmuto a little bit and they're in on McCann. And so that makes you think, well, who is the strong Realmuto suitor at this point? Is Toronto going to come in and surprise? Is it going to be the Nationals who have had some talks with it? I thought it was going to be the Mets. And so that makes things a lot more interesting going forward. And, speaking about those Blue Jays, they are still looking to get someone to help complement their infield a little bit. And it seems like they are one of the teams that are continuing to look at Justin Turner, who is an intriguing player as he's going to be 36 years old going into the next season, but he still has the chance to be productive for a team. And I also like the idea of him being a mentor on a very young team, especially with a guy who just won a World Series in this very uncertain COVID-shortened season. And while the Blue Jays have been tied to many, many, many free agents this offseason and even trade targets, it makes sense to add a third baseman here, a spot where they definitely could upgrade with Travis Shaw leaving. This is also coming from John Heyman. It's just they're one of the teams. They've looked at multiple infielders, outfielders, and others. And they even have Hyunjin Ryu doing a little bit of recruiting. And they think that he could be someone to help out moving Justin Turner over, former teammate with the Dodgers. So there's a connection there as well. And interest is going to be there. Third base is not strong. I think the Dodgers would love to have him return. But we've also heard about the Dodgers being another option for Nolan Arenado. But Turner is going to be the cheaper and easier option to afford. So that makes more sense. We've had quite a few postings recently of players coming over from Korean Baseball League, Japanese Baseball League, all these leagues. And we had another big one as outfielder slugger Sungbum Na has been posted by the NC Dinos of the Korean Baseball Organization. 31-year-old batted .317 last year, or not last year, over his 8-year career, sorry. And 6-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove over in the KBO. And this is going to be a nice little addition to the outfield. There's some good outfielders out there, but a little more power is what we're looking at with this one. He's a good little slugger. He had planned to move to the majors in 2019. Knee injury slowed him down, so that didn't happen. Hit a career high 34 homers in 130 games, lifting the Dinos to their KBO title last year. So power numbers didn't go all. It seemed like if we saw anything with the knee injury, he wasn't as good running bases. Only stole 3 bases in 2020, 14 average from 2013, 2018, so he maybe slowed down there a little bit. But the negotiating period is going to be picking up, and we'll see where he goes on to. There is some fun, interesting, names out there when it comes to guys being posted. Another one being Sugano, we talked about in one of the last podcasts. He is going to be a top pitching starting prospect for a lot of teams, because once Trevor Bauer's gone, it's the market, it goes down. Very, very, very down. So one last thing that I want to talk about, because it's probably the player that I have my eye on the most in this offseason. And while it's not major news, we did get some word from Buster Olney that a Francisco Lindor trade seems inevitable. And it kind of best was being quoted, it's been a will they, won't they situation for Lindor for a while, but it seems inevitable. The shortstop is just 1 year away from free agency. Same situation with Mookie Betts last year, that it seems time that he has to be moved, that he's going to be traded. So that's exciting. We've heard so many teams, so many connections. They've been all over the place on Lindor. So hoping that market picks up. I didn't expect the trade market to be that great this offseason. We knew we had little inklings of it of Lindor, but there's other names that are just sprinkling in, popping up. Makes it very exciting to talk about. So we're going to take another break right out of the rumor mill here. And what I want to talk about is I need to talk about these All MLB teams. I have some beef. and I need to air it out. Coming back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
The All MLB teams for 2020 first and second team have been released. If you have not had the opportunity to look at them, they're solid teams. They're great teams. Players that had great seasons all year. And I just ultimately went through them. And looking at them, I didn't have many issues all around. I found a couple things funny about them. But then when I looked deeper, I did have some serious issues with some of our options that we picked. And so I kind of wanted to dive into that. If you have not had the opportunity to hear about who these All MLB teams are, hey, don't worry, I got you. I'm here for you. First team, catcher, and also our AL Comeback Player of the Year, Salvador Perez. Had a great season. One of the best batting averages, was an awesome catcher last year. First base, NL MVP, Freddie Freeman. Second base, DJ LeMahieu. Guy was our batting champion, very deserving. Shortstop, Fernando Tatis Jr., roller coaster of a season for sure. I wouldn't have been surprised if you moved him out of that one a little bit. with our second team just because he was so hot right away. Then he really cooled off and he came back a little bit at the end of the season, I think, to salvage himself for this. But deserving all the same. Third base, Manny Machado. Yeah, I think that one is right. I don't have any questions on that one. That Padre 1-2 punch was pretty good. Outfield, Mookie Betts, Juan Soto, and then Mike Trout. I think last year might have been the year you could maybe argue against Trout a little bit, but still, his numbers make him look like he's deserving. Designated hitter, very funny because it's a National League team player getting it. Marcell Ozuna, still going to be one of our guys. You just got first team All MLB, and you're going into this offseason. We still don't really know where you're going to play. He should be DHing somewhere. All right, there's 15 American League teams that really should be looking at him to DH. That's where it's going to be. Starting pitchers: Trevor Bauer, Shane Bieber, Yu Darvish, Jacob deGrom, Max Fried, and then when we go to relief pitchers, Nick Anderson for the Rays, and Liam Hendricks, who was our American League Relief Man of the Year for the Oakland Athletics. Second team, JT Realmuto for the Phillies, no questions there. Our other MVP, American League MVP, Jose Abreu. Shame that those two play the same position. They both should be first-team guys, but hey, it's the nature of the beast there. Brandon Lau, second base for the Rays. If he didn't fall off at the end of the year, I tell you, he would have been in that MVP conversation too, but LeMahieu just a little bit better second base. Corey Seager for the Dodgers, who just sneaky great season. I don't know if we necessarily talk about how well he played last year, but it's because Tatis was just so solid out of the gates that he just really took everyone's attention. But Seager batted .307, 15 homers, 41 RBIs. Like, he was good. He was very good. I just have to throw that out there. Jose Ramirez, one of the bright spots for the Indians, offensively, one of the very few. Outfield Ronald Acuna, Michael Conforto for the Mets, and Mike Yastrzemski had a fun season. He was in MVP talks for quite a while. And then designated hitter, hey, another free agent for the Minnesota Twins, Nelson Cruz. Second round of starting pitchers, Garrett Cole, Clayton Kershaw, Danielson Lamet, Kenta Maeda, and Hyun Jin Ryu. Relief pitchers, Brad Hand and Devin Williams. And ultimately, like I said, the first time I looked at all this, no real major quarrels. I mean, all of these names, I think, are very deserving to be on the list. But with that said, I have one that 100% I don't get why he was second team over first team. It makes zero sense to me. And why I didn't catch it the first time I looked through, I don't know. But when I sat down to prepare for this, I don't understand. Devin Williams being on second team behind Nick Anderson for the Rays really makes no sense to me. And I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, well, he obviously isn't deserving. No, Nick Anderson is deserving. To be on this list. Second team is fine for him. But why we say that, his numbers compared to Devin Williams is just flat out better. Like, it isn't really hard to compare. And so I'm confused on this one, to be honest. 2-1, Nick Anderson. It's out of the bullpen. I mean, he's a relief guy. So record, what does it really matter? ERA, good. 0.55 ERA. That's awesome. Devin Williams, though, ERA of 0.33. That's better. And I mean, we can go back to the record thing too. Devin Williams was 4-1, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything with relief because a lot of things can happen there. But better ERA at 0.33. Okay. The one thing that Anderson has for him is 6 saves ahead of Devin Williams, who had 0. But with Devin Williams, he's not the closer. All right. So I get you might argue there, well, hey, better relief pitcher, he's closing, he's actually in the 9th inning. Okay, sure, fine. But when we go past that is where I'm like scratching my head. Innings pitched, Nick Anderson, 16 1/3. Remember, he had the worst ERA of the two. A really good one, but the worst. Devin Williams pitched almost 11 more innings at 27. 11 more innings. And in 11 more innings of work, he only gave up 3 more hits. He only gave up 1 earned run, which was the same thing as Nick Anderson. Walks, yeah, there's a few more, but 53 strikeouts to 26 strikeouts. Okay, doubling them up, but not doubling them up in innings. Whip 6.30 for Devin Williams. For Anderson, that's a little bit lower. But at the same time, we have all these innings more. Strikeouts per 9, Devin Williams has 17.7. Anderson is 14.3. He was in more conversation here. I don't get it. And he was Rookie of the Year. He was the National League Reliever of the Year. This one just doesn't make sense to me. I don't get it. I'm confused. I mean, when it came to voting National League Cy Young, Devin Williams finished in 7th place. Like, he was getting votes to be the Cy Young this last year. That didn't happen for Nick Anderson. He was not in the Cy Young conversations. Liam Hendricks was, but he's first team as well. I was very confused. Very confused. And I can dig a little deeper. I can go into this a little further. But, I mean, you're two guys that were just lights out. It's not saying that just because you're reliever of the year, you deserve it over the other guy. Because like we saw with the MVP, Abreu and Freeman were both MVPs, their same position, sorry. But when your numbers are better, you're the award winner before. How are you not first team? How are you not first team? I don't understand that one. And I need a valid argument to be sent my way, but so far I just can't pluck that one out. So that's my first big beef, my first big quarrel with all of this. And my next one is, I don't get why we have so many pitchers on this thing. Do we really need to have 5 starting pitchers for the first and second team? Now, I get it. There's a lot of great starting pitchers, and you could come back with me, well, hey, there's 5 starting pitchers in a rotation. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But this is an honor of where we're trying to say first and second team with relief pitchers. There's 4 total, 4. And there's a lot of great relief pitchers in baseball. But yet we're going to reward 10 starters? It seems like too much. And while the first round, Bauer, Bieber, our Cy Youngs, great. Darvish was there, DeGrom, Fried, great. We move on to that second team, and Garrett Cole was really good last year. Kershaw was good. Lamet was good. Maeda good. Jin Ryu, a lot of these guys got some Cy Young votes and everything. But it feels like we're just reaching and throwing too many on there. I get the feel that there's too many. We could shorten this down. You can give me 2 starters for both, because we're only going too deep at each position. All right? Catcher, we're only getting 2. First base, 2. Second base, 2, all the way through. I mean, outfielders, yeah, there's 6, but, I mean, there's 3 outfield positions. Do we really need to go this deep with starting pitchers on this list? It feels, I don't want to say watered down. That's too much. It's not watered down. These guys were all good. They were all good players last year. But this is an honor of All MLB. You were the best of the best. Best of the best. 10 pitchers on the list seems too much. It seems like it's too much. And I might be alone in this argument, but I don't think I'm crazier. I don't think I'm necessarily that crazy. And there's some good players that got left off this list too. I mean, we can't just sit here and pretend like they didn't happen. I mean, so why do we have to have so many pitchers to go on it? I mean, Anthony Rendon had a great season. He's not on this list. We're not going to create all this extra depth for him to be on there. Tim Anderson had a great season. We're not moving him on there. I have issues there. It's too much. It's too much there, and I'm just hopeful that maybe this changes a little bit. I mean, Trey Turner, another guy. I mean, these are guys that were top 10 MVP finishers. Top 10 MVP finishers, but yet we have 10 pitchers. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, and maybe someone else will explain it out to me. Make it a little more sense. I don't understand. And if we're also honest, Brad Hand, well, the saves were up. We could talk about a few other potential, guys that could have made it for relief. I mean, there was some good closers out there. There really was, and Brad Hand had the numbers, but there's others that we could consider for sure. So that's my problem. It's fun to look at. The award isn't crazy. I'm not gonna, be overly upset that this happened, and no, I'm not gonna go crazy. But the Devin Williams one doesn't make any sense. And hey, let's shorten up these pitchers. Let's do it. We don't need it to be that crazy long. I'm gonna start the trend. We're gonna get this going. Maybe I can convince some people to side with me. We'll see. All right, so that's gonna be it for talking about the All MLB. When we come back, our last segment, we need to talk about some of the stars that are sitting there chasing that glorious ring. We want to throw our biggest names out there coming back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores the goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Many baseball players are chasing glory, chasing to be the best, chasing so many things. And on top of, I think, a lot of players' lists, has to be, it would be mine, is that World Series ring. And there was a recent article that came out that talked about who would be our all-time team of ringless baseball players. I'm like, man, that's fun. That's ideal. It's a heavy discussion. I'm someone living up in the Midwest, and so the reason that this really caught my eye is because living in Wisconsin, I'm a diehard Milwaukee Bucks fan as well. And if you follow basketball at all, there's a lot going on with Giannis Antetokounmpo, the great Bucks player, two-time MVP, about signing an extension because of how much he wants to win. And when a career ends, we're going to look at a lot of things for a lot of players, whether it be all-star appearances, whether it be your career numbers, statistically, where are you at with home runs, RBIs, ERA, wins, whatever, strikeouts, whatever. We always keep falling back to well, how many rings did you get? How many World Series did you win? How many NBA Finals? How many Super Bowls? What did you do to get that? And while basketball is very different from baseball because, 5 guys on the court at one time, one guy can have a bigger influence, it's still all the same in baseball. We talk about it. Hey, this guy never won a World Series. And it's fun to look at it because there was an article that brought up not only the all-time greats, which I saw that, I'm like, oh, cool, sounds fun. But I want to talk about current as well. And they're on top of it. They're there to help me out. And I'm like, wow, great, fun read by Anthony Castrovins from MLB.com. And ultimately, I was a little skeptical about this, but I think it's probably the most fair way to go about it, is that we're looking at WAR, wins above replacement, to be the guide as who is kind of the biggest at each position. Because we could argue a few different ways, but what ultimately, a stat that's sometimes flawed, but over a career can be a little more telling. How many wins did you really account for? So it's fun to talk about, so we're going to throw it out there. Go position by position, the all-time team, but also our current team. So much in front of them looking to get that final ring to maybe just be what they're needing in their career. So starting at catcher, the all-time, Carlton Fisk, a 68.4 WAR. Been to a World Series at least. 1975, big-time home run, iconic scene, waving his arms. The Red Sox took a 3-0 lead in Game 7 against the Big Red Machine. Just ultimately couldn't pull it off. That one hurts. That one hurts a little bit to the Red Sox core. He's an all-time great. But our common dude, our common guy, it has to be, or I should say current guy, JT Realmuto at 19.8 WAR. He's going to have a big say in where he goes right now. So he could be on the chase for that ring. Interestingly enough, I was surprised that he was our highest. I would have thought just there's been more guys tenured, but I mean, other guys that have been around the league at the catcher position, at least I thought of Yadier Molina right away, but I'm like, he's got multiple. What am I saying? What am I saying here? So JT Realmuto is being our biggest WAR active guy without a title. Another big one that's up there, though, for catcher is Mike Piazza at 59.6. So not far behind Carlton Fisk. And while he was also in a World Series and a big one, like New York Yankees, New York Mets World Series in 2000, still chasing that title. First base, well, our all-time and our active player, they're actually closer than you think. Jeff Bagwell, 79.9 WAR across his career. Bagwell, former MVP, 2005, was in a World Series as well, lost to the White Sox, got so close, so close. Bagwell, 6 straight seasons of 30 homers, 100 runs, 100 RBIs. He's not just a crazy batting stance, folks. He kind of was a really, really, really good player. But not far behind him, like I said, Joey Votto, 62.1 WAR. And I hate to say it, unless Votto is leaving the Reds anytime soon, I don't know how close he will get to a World Series again. Been in the postseason, and Cincinnati just really hasn't made it that deep. They've been to a division series in 2010, 2012, they were in a division series. We're up in that, and then they ended up losing, lost a wild card series this last year. We'll see what ends up happening there. And Votto and Bagwell, they actually have some other big-time company, like Jim Thome is on that list, another active guy, Paul Goldschmidt. So there's quite a few quality first basemen on there. Looking at second base, Rod Carew, 81.3 career WAR, and that's from the LCS era. Very big legacy, Rod Carew. AL batting titles. What more can you say? From 1969, 1970 with the Twins, 79, 82 with the Angels. Those are the 4 teams that reached the postseason. None of them reached the World Series. Never had a chance to get there. He was 11 for 50 in his October baseball career. And that just wasn't him. He was a great batter. Interesting to see his numbers were so poor when it came to the postseason. Our active guy, DJ LeMahieu. So second base, not too high for active as well, at a 24.8 WAR. So intriguing. Not a very close number there at all. I was a little surprised, and it's kind of the same way at shortstop as well as Robin Yount, Brewer great, 77.3. He was in a World Series in 1982. You ask anybody in this area, they should have won that World Series. They all believe it. Came up short in Game 7. Yount was 12 for 29 in that. Was an NL MVP. Thought he was great. It's a tough topic. If you talk to Brewers fans about the 82 World Series, very, very tough topic. But our active guy, Andrelton Simmons, one of our free agents this offseason, hasn't reached the playoffs since a trade from the Braves to the Angels, and that was 2016. So we'll see what he ends up chasing ultimately. Third base, our active and our all-time. Well, our all-time is really not that far away from being out of baseball. Adrian Beltray at 93.6 WAR career. He was close to World Series as well. Texas was up 3-2 in the World Series in 2011. Beltray hit a huge home run in that game. It seemed like they were going to win. It seemed like it. But October baseball gets crazy. As the 10th and 11th inning of that game, St. Louis comes back. And that was Beltray's only real trip to the World Series. Interesting enough, too, because he spent some time with the Red Sox. He just avoided some of those World Series teams. Our current guy, well, Evan Longoria. And he was in the World Series when he was a rookie, 2008. Hasn't been close to getting back there. Josh Donaldson is another active way up there, 41.5 WAR. Another one, I mean, he's on a good offensive Twins team, so, I mean, there's a chance there, but as of right now, he does not have it. Outfielders, well, we're going to start in left field. No one bigger than Barry Bonds. 162.8 WAR. Just incredible numbers. And it's nuts that Bonds didn't get a World Series. The guy averaged 39 homers, 96 RBIs, and a 1.143 OPS from 93 to 2007. Average. 8 for 17 with 4 homers and 2 doubles and a 7-game loss in a World Series against the Angels. I mean, you're not going to get more production from a guy there, but Giants just were not able to pull it off with Bonds. But our active guy, well, he's active as of right now at this moment. Ryan Braun with 46.9 WAR. He may not play in 2021 and be off this list. There's potential for that. But for right now, he's another one of those guys at Milwaukee with a good high WAR that didn't get it. He's joining Robin Yount. Never been to a World Series. They were close. Game 7 of NLCS. That's the furthest he's got along. Maybe if Braun returns to Brewers or he goes sign somewhere else, he could go to a contender. I wouldn't be surprised. Might have another chance to chase it. Center field, the kid, the great, Ken Griffey Jr. Now, this is crazy to me. And this is where just WAR gets a little ridiculous. Ken Griffey, 83.8. And with all the injuries, that hurts. I don't know what he would have been if he was completely healthy. Would have had some crazy, outstanding numbers. But he never really got all that close to a World Series. Okay? Never really got there. Griffey, ALDS, Game 5, was the closest that he ever got there. And just only on 2 other postseason teams, 97 Mariners and the 2008 White Sox, which he really wasn't much there. And both of them lost in the division series. He has to be up there with one of the best players that didn't win a ring, but also just didn't get far into the postseason. Our current guy, though, is a guy who's on a scary path, similar to Griffey and Mike Trout. Trout's only 29. He's got a lot of time before him. But building a team that's even capable of making the playoffs is more the problem for the Angels right now. Right field, Larry Walker. That's a fun name. Former Rocky and Cardinal. Never able to get it. He never reached the World Series with either of the teams he's most associated with. The Rockies. With the Expos he did. Or he didn't as well. So forget about the Expos. I don't want to throw that out there. But 2004, he was on that Cardinals team that made it to the World Series, but ultimately got swept by the Red Sox, that legendary Red Sox team. So that's unfortunate there for Larry Walker. Active guy, Giancarlo Stanton, 41 WAR. I was a little surprised on that one. And another guy that we need to give a little recognition to because he's in there is Tony Gwynn at a 69.2 WAR. And he never able to get that World Series either. That's just another all-time great. Kind of a shame on that one. Designated hitter, Edgar Martinez. Our active guy, Nelson Cruz. Unfortunately, never able to get the big one. 2 great bats, overall career. Nelson Cruz also has that little history. He's been on the Rangers team that lost in that 2011. And him and Beltray and Cruz, unfortunate to be on this list together. 2 really good bats. 2 really good bats. That Rangers team was fun. Sneaky fun. Starting pitcher, Phil Niekro, 95.9 ERA. Active guy, Zach Greinke at 72.2. Greinke, been in the postseason, been to the World Series. Not to his fault. He's done a lot of great stuff. And the list of pitchers, that it's a long, fun list. Just looking at some of the active guys, Felix Hernandez, Jacob deGrom, Corey Kluber, Bartolo Colon, could go either way with that one also. He's technically active. He hasn't retired. 45.8 combined WAR. Empty-handed. 21 seasons, 11 teams, never getting that World Series. And then closer, Lee Smith, being our big one. Now, Trevor Hoffman is another one on this list. 601 career saves. Only made 4 postseasons with the Padres. But his 28 WAR is actually a little bit below Lee Smith. And that's why he's not getting the nod. So you should at least acknowledge him. And our active guy, Joakim Soria, 18.6. WAR not too high for a lot of these guys. And just for fun, they threw it up here in the article. Who is our active manager? Well, Dusty Baker. Never quite getting that title. And he looked like he almost was going to have a little breakthrough with the Astros this year, but ultimately still chasing it. So fun thing to talk about. Man, that's a lineup. Even just with the active team along with the all-time team, I'd like to think they could win a title. I'd like to think they could get one done. So that's going to be it for this episode of the GSMC Baseball Podcast on the GSMC Podcast Network. Your host, once again, Collin Manley. I want to thank you so much for listening. It means a great deal. Your support is so awesome. If you have the opportunity, would love to get a positive comment, review, whatever. Let us know about the show. Stuff you want us to talk about, maybe something that really caught your attention in this episode. Love it. Any support is great. So I want to thank you once more. I'm signing off. Collin Manley for the GSMC Baseball Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Baseball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.